G'day everybody, welcome to another episode of Two Friends Talking Shit about FPL. We thought we were done with cancellations and postponements, but then the storms have hit Merseyside. We have had 2 game weeks, we've had another double winner and someone taking the lead in our league. Andy, how are you going, buddy?
Order has been restored. That's all I've got to say. Order has been restored. Every time you win twice in a row, it makes me really nervous because then I know it's 2 games I need to catch up. Because you took that first win in game week 1, I think because you took that first win, when you win twice in a row, technically I'm needing to win once more to break even. So order has been restored, and once more to catch up, right? This is the first time I think I've won twice in a row, and now we're if you win the next one, then we're breaking even again, and order has been restored. So either way, I'm happy. Order's been restored.
Yeah, I think it's I don't know, is it the first time that I think it's been I've won one, you've won one, I've won one, you've won one. I think we've done that pretty much the whole season, and I won a couple to go ahead, then you've won a couple, and then I won one, then you've won a couple, and it's like for the first, it really goes to show though how we have different ways of playing the game, but we're still both. It's weird that we're both competitive and we're within 3 points of each other in this head-to-head league. However, you're like 100 points ahead in the overall rank, and it's kind of how does that compute properly? But that's the way the game's played, and like we said, this is the testing point.
I think in some of the weeks when I have won, it may have been by a bigger margin.
Yeah.
And when I lose, I might lose by a smaller margin. That could be that could be why there's a points difference in the total points. But don't forget though, one big impact that I had was because I triple captained Haaland, and that actually made up for probably 30 points, right? With Liverpool and Everton being cancelled, Liverpool's going to double up. There's your triple captain opportunity for Salah potentially.
Yeah, definitely. I think as soon as I saw that game postponed, I'm like Everton. And I had a look at where the predicting would go in, and I'm like, yeah, there's the triple captain right there. There's a double game week of Salah. But last time we spoke...
No, you go. Sorry, I was going to go fire off into that corner to be like, hey, there's a good chance that triple captain on a double game week for Salah, if he keeps performing how he has, you're going to outscore Haaland's triple captain where he got a hat-trick.
But the tricky thing is with that triple captain is if so you got Liverpool playing Everton and other teams. If that falls against another small team, it's even a good week for considering you get free hit, you bench boost and all that kind of stuff. Like if it falls in a week where there's lots of other good fixtures, we have other things to think about as well. But I think it's easily a shoehorn in for the triple captain. And then if we know in advance when that's going to be and we can see the fixtures around there, then we can look at maybe targeting that for a free hit or bench boost, especially if we don't see other game weeks dropping in. What will be really interesting is if Liverpool do progress in these cups and then end up with another double game week later down the line. And that will really, I think, put our hand on tripling up on Liverpool players, because we know they've got at least 2 double game weeks in the latter half of the season. I think we're going to be silly not to have significant interest in their team.
Massively. And Liverpool are doing well right now, and they're a strong defence as well. I legitimately would like to get a Liverpool defender in. I'm just not yet because their fixture this week, I don't know, but yeah, following weeks I'm definitely keen for a Liverpool defender. But anyway, let's what do we have on the cards today?
I thought we'd have a bit of a look at the way we're playing in the last 2. Obviously, it's been we didn't manage to record midweek last week, so we've had a couple of game weeks since then. We've probably all both got our ideas in mind for what we're going to do going forward. I think we knew game week 15, 16 comes with a bit of a fixture swing, so we'll have a bit of a look at that. But I think firstly, when we left off last time, we were toying with the idea. I think we were 70-30 for a triple captain Salah for game week 14. So let's bring up my team. I'll show you what I did. I'll show you if I played that chip, and I'll show you how upset or not I am. I think it's probably
that was a good week for a triple captain Salah.
It would have been, but didn't go in the end. He did do well. That's not that week. We were talking about it the week before, weren't we? For game week 13, and he didn't.
That's that week.
Was that?
Oh
No,
no.
either
Oh
week he would
no.
have
There we
returned
go.
some good points. But so I reckon we're on game week 14 is the
That's the
first
one.
one that we talked
Yeah.
about. So this is my team. I got 56 points. I think I took a -4 this week. Fabianski with 2 points, Aina with 1, Ainori with none, Mazarau with 1, Johnson 2, and then my big hitters, Captain Palmer came out with 14, Saka 3, Vice Salah 18, Rogers came in off the bench for Jackson, who got 8 points, Jao Pedro got 5, and Chris Wood got 2, Sells with 2, Jackson auto subbed out with 0, Gabriel auto subbed out with 0, and Hall with 1. So a little disappointing, really. A bit below the average. Then the hit on top for that. I think I lost 250,000 places overall in the week. Just nothing from my defenders. Like it was just the two in the middle really bringing the points in, and a lucky auto sub with Rogers coming in with 8 points. So it could have been worse, but I think it was a little bit of a week where they generally players in general didn't perform too well, and if you had the right players, you did well, and if you didn't, didn't lose too much ground. For making up the couple of weeks before, making up like a million places each week to only lose 250 for that week, wasn't too bad. But pushing on.
It's going to happen. I'll share my screen for that game week. So this was me for that game week. I ended up with 65 points, only 1 transfer, very uncharacteristic of me. Raya with the clean sheet 6, Vardio with clean sheet 6, Aitnoru with 0, Vandenberg with 1, Palmer captain with 14, Burma with 2, Salah with 18, Saka with 3, Rogers with 8, Jao Pedro with 5, and Cunha with 2. And I was surprised Jackson and Colwill didn't play. I actually brought in Colwill. That was my transfer for the week. Colwill in for Justin, and he didn't play. But, I'm not too worried about Colwill's minutes. He's been playing 90 pretty consistently, and that was a midweek game against bottom of the table Southampton, so I wouldn't be surprised if Jackson and Colwill just got a rest for that week. So 65 points in that game week, and pretty happy with that outcome. We literally got the inverse of each other. 56 and 65.
Yeah. It could have been better, but so we went from there. I made another couple of changes, so I went with a -8 for the next game week. For game week 15, I'll flick it on one. So ending on 53 -8, so 45 points all up. So it did beat the average, but then with the 3 transfers, I brought in Timber in the middle. I brought in Kirkes, mainly so that I could bring in and fund Isak coming back into the team after 1 week away. So this one, Andy, was so frustrating. This week came right down to the wire for us. It came down to the Wolves West Ham game. And as what's typical for us is we get to the last half an hour of the game and it looks like it's swinging one way, and then bang, it swings back the other way. I think you obviously won the first week, so the powers of deduction says that you won this week as well. I think until West Ham were 1-0 up, that had wiped out a clean sheet for you. I was sitting with a clean sheet with Fabianski, and I was like solid, sitting there in the lead, and then Aino pops up with his assist, and then that's his clean sheet gone, and then he gets booked as well, and it all goes down the drain. So 53 points, nail biting finish. Fabianski with 2, Kirkes, one of my transfers in with 2, Timber in with 2, Hall with 1. Hall was also sub in for Gabriel. Johnson I brought in late, knowing that Liverpool game had been cancelled or postponed, so I took Salah out, brought Johnson in. Rogers with 2, Vice Captain Palmer with 18, Saka with 2, Jackson 2, Pedro 2, and Captain Isak with 16. Kind of went with a bit of a differential captain. I thought this would be a week that there was a bit of a spread in captaincy, so I thought have a bit of a stab at Isak. If it works out, I can gain a few places. Didn't work out badly, still got some good points from him. He was one of the better captains for the week, just wasn't quite as good as the Palmer captain.
And Palmer got 2 penalties in that game.
Yeah.
So I think you can count yourself unlucky there. I'll show you my team. this was actually a pretty terrible game week for me, right? And once I show you my team, I'll tell you why. I made two transfers. One of them, why don't we run through our team for this upcoming week? I've already transferred the player I transferred in out. Like, it was literally a waste of a neg 4,
Oh
right?
no.
Didn't make money from it. It was literally my way of being like, I'm going to try be too clever here. Anyway,
Oh dear.
yeah. Look, I did win the game week, 55 points with a neg 4, right, instead of a neg 8. I brought in Duran Timber. I wanted Gabriel, but because he was yellow flagged, I just couldn't bring him in, and that was the right call. He didn't end up playing.
Yeah.
So I brought in Timber. So Raya with 2, Timber with 2, 8 Nuri with 4, Vardio with 1, Palmer captain with 36, Saka with 2. I brought in Rashford from Burmo, and Burmo scores and assists,
Yeah.
and Rashford gets like nothing. Worst call ever. But do I regret it? Look, probably not, because Burmo was dropping in price. And look, was point 0.1 worth 10, missing out on 10 points? Probably not in hindsight, but I don't know. He hasn't been doing much, so I didn't think he was going to score, but there we go. Rogers with 2, Jackson with 2, Cunha with 1, Jab Pedro with 2. Obviously, Salah didn't play, Colwell with 1, and Vandenberg with 0. Now, this is the reason why this was a terrible game week. Look at my whole team. I only have one. Eight Nuri scored 4, but other than Eight Nuri, Palmer is the only player that scored more than 2 points.
Yeah.
I've got no one else who has contributed anything significant or meaningful to the points. Literally, Palmer captain saved my game week, right?
Yeah.
Downside is I definitely got a red arrow, so I'm out of the top 500k now. I'm 538,000, so I need to claw my way back in. So yeah, it was actually a pretty terrible game week. Cunha, I'm a bit concerned about. I mean, Wolves have been still scoring, but Cunha just hasn't done much, right? Eight Nuri, I almost wish Cunha was the one who assisted and not Eight Nuri, because I've been wanting to get rid of Eight Nuri. Wolves fixtures, I think they've got 2 more good fixtures left, and defensively they're pretty terrible. But you know what? Yeah, I might hold him for another week or two.
Yeah, and 8 was one of my transfers out this week. I kind of looked at the fixtures coming up, and with my hokey pokey, Jackson not playing and Isak in and then injured and out, I was going to move on Cunha a while ago. But then when I came to this week and I was like, who do I bring back in? Do I bring in Cunha or like a lower owned, lower value striker and then bring in a Trent or someone like that? In hindsight, would have worked out appallingly because he wouldn't have even played. But it kind of, I was looking at the fixtures, and the Wolves fixtures going forward weren't phenomenal, and I was a little worried about a bit of rotation over Christmas and some bad fixtures, and I was like, nah, let's just go with what we know. Let's go with some easier options. So then I ended up bringing in Timber, and ended up bringing in Kirkez at Bournemouth, purely because he got better fixtures coming up. He's put in a couple of banging goals recently, and I just thought these are more calculated gambles for a bit of a longer term. I'd like to kind of build up some transfers so I don't have to use the wildcard straight, first couple of weeks in January. But it's always that option sitting there. But it's difficult, isn't it, when you get to this point in the season? Like, you're trying to get back into the 500,000s, I'm trying to catch up with you. So you've got to make these calculated decisions, and we're starting to get to that point of the season where we're going to have to start making some decisions that are different to other people as well. So it's good to see that I've gone Isak and you've gone back with different people. So yeah,
just something to keep in mind as well with the wild card. I think it's going to depend on what Haaland does over the next couple of weeks, because their fixtures are turning good. Because if Haaland starts firing on all cylinders again, a lot of people are going to be like, we need Haaland back in. But here's the thing. I think we've not owned Haaland for long enough that the money's been spread out everywhere.
Yeah, and I think we're all set now we're waiting until wildcard to get Haaland back. I don't think there's an easy route back. I think the route back at the moment, this is purely at the moment on current form, would be Saka out to Haaland, because Arsenal are the team that are stalling that little bit, and if they stall, Saka doesn't get points. Chelsea are scoring goals, Palmer's involved, so you're not going to move him. Salah's scoring goals and is actually involved, you're not going to move him. So your only other real big option is to downgrade Saka, and I think he will end up being that sacrificial sacrificial lamb. But um, it's not someone I want to move because again, it's Arsenal and City. Like they do have a couple of stumbling blocks, but they're Arsenal and City, and they can't stay like that for long. Arsenal have struggled to keep people in. Calafiori's been injured. Gabriel's now been injured a little bit. Saliba's been in and out a little bit. Ben White's out long term. They've had Odegaard injuries. Saka's had yellow flags and niggles. It's not been an easy run, even with the fixtures. So, and then you add in, we got midweek Champions League fixtures this week. We've still got a lot of fixtures to go. And he could be the one that makes way. But, they could also turn a corner. I think it's way too early to start thinking about our wild cards because we can't even get access to them until January. So it's about, if you can, I think the very template team this week has a lot of home fixtures. So I think this is the week to bank a transfer if you can. Bank a couple more in the next couple of weeks. Maybe try mini wildcard early January. See how the things are falling. See how the European fixtures finish out. See who makes it in, who doesn't make it in. What team did Chelsea put into the Europa League? Final stages if they get there. Is Palmer involved in that? Are we now concerned about his minutes in the league? So many questions to be answered in January. And the big question, what the hell is a mystery chip? We're now so close to knowing what it is. And I think it's going to be such a disappointment when it's told what it is.
What do you think it is, out of curiosity?
Purely going from the challenge aspect of this, where they've got all those limited game weeks, I would imagine it's something like an all-out attack chip, where you can have all attackers for 1 week, or, two defenders and everyone else, or, something like that. I think would be just a different formational change. I don't think it's not going to be a wild card thing because we've already got that. It's not going to be a free hit. It's not going to be a bench boost. So, and anything else is too much of a, like someone mentioned, like a point swap. Like you directly swap points with a rival, but that's not fair on the rival. So I think it's more likely to be an all-out attack or, something like that. I'd say, or like a after game week substitution. Like for 1 game week, if you've left 12 points on your bench, you could swap that person in for like at 12 hours after the game week. But other than that, I don't think it's going to be anything special.
I don't think a point swap would make sense because that won't affect anyone not playing the league. Right? If you're a solo player of FPL with no head-to-head, it won't affect you because you've got no head-to-head rival to swap your points with. So it's almost like you don't have a mystery chip. So I don't think it'd be that.
Yeah, it's a hard. Yeah, because I think anything else is too much involved with it. I think it has to be a pre-game week play. You have to play it pre-game week kind of a thing. Because anything that's kind of like a change your sub or like an after game week transfer that you get the points, like it's all kind of, it has to be worked out after. And I think it's going to be too difficult. So I think it will just simply be all-out attack chip or a, defenders get quadruple points or something silly. But if your goalkeeper scores a goal, you can win the league automatically, kind of a thing.
Hey, just on that, I just want to show you something. Hang on, let me just. I was playing around with how do I get Haaland while keeping all the big firing people in my team. I was playing around with that. All right. This would take me a neg 20 to do. Right? But it lets me have Haaland, I keep Salah, I keep Palmer, and I keep Saka, and I keep Vardio. Right? So this is what I'm aiming for. This is where part of the season where I've got money and I can throw that around a bit and still have an okay team.
I'm nervous.
In the back line, I've got Sells and Solicic, or it could be Fabianski.
Yeah.
Milenkovic, because Nottingham Forest's defense is pretty good. I could probably swap him for another 4.5 mil player. Colwill, Vandenberg, Gvardiol could actually be an Arsenal defender, or could be Timber, or could be a Liverpool defender.
Yeah.
And Ait Nori could be someone else. Saka, Rogers, Palmer, Salah, Ahmad in the midfield, Haaland, and up front, João Pedro and Raul Jimenez. Right, or maybe not Raul Jimenez, could be another forward who is like of 5.8 value or less. So maybe Welbeck or Vardy or Strand Larsen, whoever. That lets me have, essentially, on any given game week, I'll be playing, a combination of the attackers, maybe Rogers and Ahmad swap in and out, and João Pedro and Strand Larsen swap in and out. But then I've got a formium. Is that a word? Formium.
It is now.
Haaland, Saka, Palmer, Salah. Like, I can keep that. And when I look at this team, sure, up front is kind of crappy, João Pedro and Strand Larsen, but there's people out there who don't have Haaland and can only afford that front line.
Yeah.
Right? And in the back line, I do have one premium defender still. I actually don't mind that at all, to be honest. This gives me exposure to a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you are kind of banking, if you do put this out, you are kind of banking on City firing again, Chelsea maintaining what they've started, and United kind of kicking on a bit with Ahmad. Because I imagine you'll be playing a 3-4-3 most weeks.
Yeah.
With the...
Or a 2-5, or a 2-5-3.
A 3-5-2.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not a 2-5-3.
Unless there's an all-out attack chip.
Yeah, unless it's all-out attack chip. So this setup is literally banking on if João Pedro, Strand Larsen, Ahmad or Rogers do something, great, but it's really banking on Saka, Salah, Palmer, Haaland to have a game week. Here's the thing. Is it likely one or two of them will have a decent game week? Yeah, it is. Like, that's actually quite likely.
Yeah. So the only thing I'd mention is that I think Ahmad's a good pick for now, depending on how United kick on.
Of course.
João Pedro, long term, does worry me a little bit with his injury record. And then where do you go if you then go into another 5 million that you're not sure of if you've got nothing else? And Colwill is a good pick now, but if Reece James can get fit and stay fit, does he take that spot? Or is there more rotation? Does Colwill play in the league? Like, if you're banging on him being one of your starters, it just is considering how much he'll play. But I think otherwise, you've got enough. And the players that are on the periphery are good enough players that they can rotate in. And, when they've got a good fixture, they're a great pick. And you just rotate those three in, especially in the defensive line. I don't think it's bad. I think it's pretty solid. And you're looking at a 100-point week when all those teams are playing, Chelsea, Arsenal, City, they're all playing like lower teams. You're looking at huge returns.
Yeah.
It just does.
I actually don't mind that.
Yeah. It just does reduce your flexibility about moving to other people a little bit if you're not willing to move one of those people down. But then if Bruno starts kicking on, you can easily downgrade and reinvest.
So this is my play is I'm going to spend the next probably 2 months trying to bank cash, right? Because if I can earn another 1 or 2 mil, then I can have that team with an extra 1 or 2 mil to spend. Yeah. Then all of a sudden, that's upgrading Colwill at the back to a 6-point, double. Literally, that's like a Haaland up front, your 3 premium in the middle, and having 2 premium at the back, or maybe throwing another premium in the middle. You know what I mean? So I'm going to save my wild card. I'm going to try and save my wild card, famous last words, to maybe February, end of February window. And if the opportunity arises, I might restructure the whole team where I'm just spending on the money. And
when you mention windows, that's another good thing to bear in mind is that, we've got transfer window in January. So we don't know who other teams are going to bring in. That's right. If someone goes and brings in a great player, we might need to jump on them. So
That's true. Oh, exciting times.
Well, as we talk about the future, let's have a look at I've whipped up the fixture ticker from Fantasy Football Scout. So we'll have a bit of a glance. And it's kind of interesting to see. So this is the ticker. I've set it up from the current game week that we're going to go into to game week 21, which is the second week in January. So kind of when we would maybe start to think about the wild card and the teams. So these are the players that we kind of would like in now that we'll see us over the Christmas period. So like the obvious, Chelsea, Liverpool, City, Arsenal at the top with like pretty great fixtures. Chelsea the best of the bunch. Liverpool have got a Tottenham in there and a United in there. City have got a Villa, and Arsenal have got maybe Brighton and Tottenham in a few weeks is a bit, but until then, Arsenal, Palace, Ipswich. Interesting, like Newcastle and Bournemouth, like the next ones. Like Newcastle, really, you'd expect them to win most of those. They do have United and Tottenham, which are hard to decide, hard to pick on. Bournemouth have got West Ham, who are starting to kind of gain a bit of ground again, and United and Chelsea at the end of that little spell. Interesting that Wolves have dropped. They've got those two good fixtures now, but then they drop quite dramatically down the table. And then down the other end, we've got the Brentford, West Ham, Tottenham, Forest, United, all kind of sitting down there with, not great fixtures. Most of the teams I just mentioned have to play Liverpool and City in the next, 6 fixtures. Mm-hmm. United have got them next and Liverpool in 20. West Ham, we've got Liverpool and City back-to-back in 1920. Leicester got Liverpool City back-to-back 18-19. Who calendars Liverpool and City back-to-back for teams? That is just cruel, I think.
Yeah, look, and Aston Villa right after Man City.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the short term. But if you were just going for a play, just for a couple of weeks, if we just take 2 game weeks out of it, so just the next 4. You've still got, Chelsea and Arsenal at the top. Liverpool drop a little bit. Brighton are in there if you want a short-term punt. And you've still got, Everton and Leicester, Brentford all down the bottom. Forest, kind of, you can see their fixtures starting to drop off. So dropping it back to 21. If you're kind of thinking, so we're looking at, your kind of option. So add in a couple of game weeks, maybe one more. So this is kind of, start of February area. The picture changes, but doesn't change all that much, really. You still got your Newcastle, Liverpool, Chelsea at the top. Arsenal drop a little bit, but I think that's heavily influenced by that Man City fixture that comes in game week 24. Tottenham is still sitting, midway there, but then Bournemouth drop right down the ticket because then after 20, you've got Chelsea, Newcastle, Forest, and Liverpool back to back. Not an easy run. Now Wolves, fall way down. And then Brighton kind of creep back in. I think Arsenal really hampers that short-term fixture swing, but generally the fixtures aren't too bad. You've got your Raul pick with Fulham from 17, Southampton, Chelsea, Bournemouth, Ipswich, West Ham, Leicester. That's a pretty good little run in there. And then all
I think it depends on also, are you investing in attacking assets or defending assets, right? Because this fixture ticker may look different if you're going for a defensive asset versus an attacking one.
Yeah. So this here is that same time period for attacking fixtures. Mm-hmm. Still got Newcastle at the top, Southampton next. Don't know.
Okay, I'm not investing in Southampton.
No, me neither. Liverpool, Chelsea, Forest. It's the one that jumps up quite dramatically. City stay mid-table. You still got Brentford down the bottom. Wolves. It's a similar. Bournemouth in the middle. Change it to defence. Chelsea sit top. Liverpool second. So Chelsea, Liverpool, Newcastle consistently at the top. Arsenal in and around there a little bit. I think this might be a bit weighted to the injuries they have at the moment. So I'd expect the picture to change a fair bit. Interesting that City are so far down for mid-table for most of these fixtures. And, United, Villa, Everton, Leicester, West Ham, Brentford, Ipswich, Chelsea, Arsenal. Last season, you're looking at, majority wins there, 8 wins. But, the Arsenal game is hard. The Chelsea game is not easy. The Villa game, you might expect to drop points. Even the United game this weekend is what City team's going to get put out there. So, look, I think Arsenal we still need to be aware of, and I think Arsenal, Liverpool we want to load up on. Chelsea, I would like to say I think we should load up a little bit, but I'm also just a bit wary that they do surge. I think Chelsea They do a bit, they surge up the table a little bit, and then they lack off a bit, and they surge up the table a little bit. Newcastle have just not hit a consistent stride. So even though they are at the top of the ticker, I think for me, they're a long-term hold now. I think if you need to just get in an Isak, get in a haul, leave them there, and don't touch them, because if you move them, you're going to miss their point hauls, guaranteed. And I think this table could just give you some indications for those the fringe players that you look at, how long you're keeping them, what do you want to do, who you're targeting, just to kind of fill in your squad, especially if your strategy is similar to yours, and to fill with premiums and trying to find those gems around and about. This table is going to be something you're going to need to look at. Anything popping out for you, Andy, that you see that you're interested or surprised at?
Not really. I know there's a few players I have my eye on. Iwobi from Fulham, I really like how he's been performing, and I'd really want to get him in. I would have actually transferred him in for Rashford this week, but they play Liverpool, so I've just held off. But in retrospect, I probably could have made that move, to be honest, because chances are I was going to bring in Iwobi next week anyway, so I could have saved myself a transfer. Now that I'm thinking about it, why didn't I do that? No idea. Oh my god, I just pulled the trigger too early. Oh no, I know. Sorry, I know why I didn't. I couldn't afford. I've made 2 moves this week already, and I couldn't afford it if I brought in Iwobi. I need to make one more move to get Iwobi in. But look, nothing really else stands out. Man City is the one where is Man City, depending on are you investing in an attacker or defender, is playing Man City still a difficult fixture? Like if you're investing in an attacker, do you like Man City's clean sheet odds? They haven't received that many clean sheets this season. So if you have an attacker that's playing Man City, you're not that worried.
And yeah, and I think it's very much still feels like when will they hit their stride again? And it could be any week. So it's easy to load up and have players who are playing them and play them, but then you end up with like the Chris Wood situation where they get beaten 3-0 and he doesn't get any points, and then we're like, oh, it's the old City's back again. And interesting what you're saying about your Iwobi pick. So I've just flicked the table on 1 week. So taken this week's fixtures out, and Fulham jump from mid-table to top. So that Liverpool fixture really drops them down. So those fixtures, even with the Chelsea and the Newcastle ones in there, they sit reasonably high. And then attack, top, defense, 4, 5 down. So yeah, I think Fulham could be a good pick, especially with the form they had at the start of the year when they had some better fixtures. It was pretty good, and we got a lot of returns, especially from like ESR and Raul for a little bit in there. So I think it's probably a good pick. I'm still, part of me still is holding a little bit of cash and just waiting for that City asset to really come out. When they played Forest, they played a little bit of a different formation. They were playing Grealish in the middle instead of on the wide, and he did create a lot of attacking form going forward. And then they pulled 3 goals out of it. And then we've had a De Bruyne masterclass and got a few goals and assists out of him. So the formula is still there for City. It's just when is it all going to come together? And who knows at this point?
No, that's the thing, right? Like, you just don't know. So, and how long do you hold that money unspent for as well? That's another thing. Because if that money can be invested somewhere that gets you a better return from a points perspective, are you missing out?
Yeah, and I think I'm not, with my transfers this week, I'm only holding 0.6. So it's not like I'm holding 3 million anymore. And that 0.6 is enough to turn like a Timber into a Gvardiol if I wanted to spread out a little bit and not have the double defense. In a perfect world, what would happen is that sales would go up by 0.1, which gets me an extra 0.1 on a sale, and Allison would go down 0.1, and then I could swap sales to Allison.
Fair.
But I'm not quite there.
Look, that's not out of the question. That could happen.
Yeah, with Allison not yet back in the team, if Kelleher starts again this week, he might be on for a drop, but he hasn't really had a lot of movement. I think it would really need me to downgrade a defender and then make that change, which is annoying because I would like Trent, but I'm not going to get back to Trent anytime soon with the attackers I've got on the pitch. So just to have an asset, and I think Sells is still a good pick, but he's not returning like he was. They're not keeping clean sheets like they were, and he's not got an avenue to other points. So, and I am swapping Sells and Fabianski out a little bit, and I haven't been unlucky and missed a haul yet, because they're both kind of 2 or 3 points that they're returning. But there's not real point in swapping him constantly, and I probably just would prefer a set and forget, but I don't have the funds at the moment. So, and I'm not moving to like an Edison, which I can afford to go to until they start returning. And he hasn't played in 2 games. For some weird reason, Ortega's played the last 2.
Well, they're not keeping clean sheets.
Bro.
Yeah. Edison, more like Forgetison.
Oh dear.
Oh, that was terrible.
I think that's probably a good avenue to have a look at the fixtures for this coming week.
Yep, let's go. Let's forget about that.
So we'll have a look at the fixtures coming up. We'll let's give our score predictions for what we think is going to happen, and then we'll have a quick chat about our teams and what changes we've made this week and where we are planning to go, I reckon. So give me 10 seconds. Let's just pull up the fixtures.
Oh man, the more I think about having Haaland in amongst all of my team, the more I like that team. That team's just a flex. It's just a flex of a team.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, kicking the game week off. 4 fixtures straight off the bat. 3 teams are probably really looking at Arsenal, Liverpool, and Newcastle. Arsenal at home to Everton, who've had a week off. What do you think your boys are gonna do here?
I think it's going to be a 2-0 Arsenal.
Yeah, I think 3-0. I don't think Everton are putting up much at the moment. So yeah, 3-0 Arsenal.
Although Everton have been defending. Like, they've had a few clean sheets here and there.
Yeah, they either defend well or they don't, though. There's no middle ground. There's no 2-2s. It's we've let a couple of goals in, and then it runs away from them. And I can imagine that your boys are going to have a bit too much, and it's going to be over before the break.
I hope so. Liverpool, Fulham. Fulham have been good. Like, even before this game week when Arsenal were playing Fulham, I'm like, oh man, I want Arsenal to win, but I feel like it's going to be like a 1-1 or something because Fulham have been playing well. And in terms of goals conceded, I don't think there's been many times they've conceded more than 1 goal this season. They haven't really had many clean sheets, but they haven't conceded a heck of a lot.
Yeah. And it's a bit unfortunate Liverpool get a week rest, but then they have to play Girona midweek in the Champions League, so there's still going to be there's a bit of travel involved. I think this is probably... It's at Anfield. I'd like to say 2-0 to Liverpool.
I am going to say 2-1 Liverpool.
If I was not a Liverpool supporter, I think I'd go 2-1, but I am, so 2-0. Newcastle, Leicester.
Oh. It depends on which Newcastle show up.
Yeah.
Right? I can see this being a 3-1 Newcastle with them at home.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I don't think clean sheets are there for Newcastle at the moment. They just don't seem to be able to put them together. But then they can go bang in 3 at Liverpool. So yeah, I think 3-1 Newcastle is probably a good pick.
Wolves Ipswich, okay. For some reason, I feel like this will either be a 1-0 Ipswich or like a 4-3 Wolves. Like, it is one of those games where no one expects anything and it just ends up being a stupid high-scoring game, and there's people who score on the Ipswich side that you haven't even heard of before, and on Wolves it's like scattered all over the place as well.
Yeah, I'm a little the same, but not quite as dramatic. I think this is either going to be like a 1-1 or like a 0-0 or a 1-1, tight and cagey. Ipswich put out a good fight, or it's going to be a 3-1, 3-0 Wolves if they just get their gears to turn. But I think I'm going to go 1-1 just because we haven't seen that from Wolves.
Fair, fair. Oh, Forest versus Villa was going to be an interesting game because Forest have been good this season, and Villa, they've been inconsistent.
Yeah, I'm going 2-1 Forest for me. This one, Villa have got a Champions League trip as well, or they got a Champions League fixture midweek. It seems to be after the Champions League that they do have a bit of a slump. So, Forest have been good at home. They've been good against the big teams, and I think they'll find a way. 2-1 Forest.
I'm going to go 1-0 Forest.
Nice. Brighton Palace. This feels like it should be a Brighton win. But then Palace have been doing a little bit of surprising and holding teams that they shouldn't have of late. But I still think Brighton have got enough. And I think it's a 2-1 Brighton.
Yeah, I could see 2-1 Brighton as well. This next one I'm interested in. Manchester Derby. Man City haven't been all that good. Or Man United neither, but they've done better than what they have been. So this will be interesting.
But even in those seasons when City won the title by 10, 12 points, they would often lose this game to Man United at City ground. That's Forest's ground. At the Etihad. So look, I really don't know where to go with this one. I think it will be an all-go affair. And unlike the Arsenal game that United had a few weeks ago, I think United will find some chances, and I think they will want to put those chances away. So I'm going to go with a 2-2.
Yeah, I'm going to say I could see that happening, like a 2-2. Or I could see a 3 in there somewhere. Either Man City score 3 or Man United. It'll be 3-2. I don't know who's going to win, though.
Yeah, cool.
And what's the bet? I've transferred out Rashford already, and Rashford's going to get like a brace or something. I just know. FFS.
Yeah. All right, Chelsea-Brentford. This one has all the makings of a Joker game. Like, this could be anything.
Mate, Chelsea-Tottenham. To me, when I saw Chelsea-Tottenham, I just knew there was going to be goals. Because last season, Chelsea-Tottenham was an explosive match. They almost got into a fight. It was great. Chelsea-Tottenham, amazing. So when I saw Chelsea-Brentford, I'm like, oh man, Brentford suck at clean sheets, can score. Chelsea also enjoyed a score. So I can see a 4-3 happening.
I'm 5-3 Chelsea. I am.
Whoa!
Holy crap! I can see an early Jackson yellow card or a Jackson yellow card, and then it's just how many goals can we get for him? Because he's still sitting on that yellow card, and he's done well. He's missed a game, obviously. He's done well to get through. I can see this being the one, and I think once the goals start going in, I can see Brentford getting a few back, but I think Chelsea will have a bit much. So, yeah, I'm going to go with an optimistic 5-3.
5-3, I was going to say 4-3 Chelsea.
What's it been 0-0 now?
Yeah, mate, if it's 0-0, that would be wild. Like, the first time Brentford keeps a clean sheet, and the first time they actually don't score against someone.
All right, Southampton Spurs. Is it a Spurs be Spursy week?
Yeah, I was going to say, which Spurs show up, right? So this, on paper, it's like, oh, Spurs is going to steamroll Southampton. But what's going to happen? I'm going to say 2-1 Spurs.
I'm going to say 2-0 Southampton.
Mate, that is wild. I hope that's the case. I genuinely hope that's the case, but that's hilarious.
I just think, I don't know, this might be a bit fanciful, but Spurs, they either look good or they don't. They gave a lot in that last game at the weekend, and this is the kind of game that the Spurs be Spursy comes in. It could only be Spursier if it was at Spurs. But Southampton having great. Let's go 2-1. I think it could be a 2-1 Southampton win. I think Spurs, when they struggle hard. It's not often that they lose by a goal. And it's not often that they lose and they're outplayed. They generally play okay, but just can't get over the line. And I feel that this could be one of those games.
Okay, interesting. All right. Bournemouth, West Ham. What do you reckon? I'm going to go 1-0.
Yeah. This is hard because West Ham now have obviously lost Antonio for at least a year after his car crash and he's long term out. So their attacking output might be reduced, but then he wasn't altogether their only attacking outlet. Bournemouth are all over the place, as are West Ham with their results that they're bringing in. So I think 1-1 realistically.
Okay. All right. Look, a few exciting games this weekend. Man City versus Man United. Chelsea versus Brentford. A few potentially explosive games. I'm keen to see this. It'll be great. All right, shall we check out...
I have a bit of a gripe though that a couple of weeks ago I said there was no early games for the Australian side of things, and then last week we had an early game and it was postponed. And then we're back to these 1:30 games. So it's back to watching the highlights in the morning, trying to catch a match of the day. So frustrating, so frustrating. But anyway, let's let it go. Teams for this week. I will throw you mine up because I'm on the same page. Let's zoom out. I have made no changes. Like I said, I'm planning on rolling. I have. Captaincy isn't decided yet. I'm playing Johnson instead of Rodgers because the Southampton game. I'd like him to get some returns, even though I've gone with a ridiculous score for Southampton to win. So this would obviously mean if Gabriel doesn't play, that Hall gets auto picked in, playing Leicester at home, which is fine. Fabianski against Sells, I'm not sure about. I just really can't pick. And if I'm so torn, I think I'll play Sells because I think he's the better goalkeeper in the better team. But for now,
they play a better team as well.
Huh?
They play a better team as well.
Yeah, that is true. But I'm predicting the Villa slump after the Champions League, so I've got to go with my slump.
Yeah, fair.
I've got captaincy on Salah at the moment. As we get a bit closer, I will have a look at the expected goal charts before I pick the captaincy. Like you said, Fulham don't concede a lot of goals, so I'm not expecting a whole lot. So it could be a single-digit return for Salah. And if Saka can turn it on at Everton, we could be looking at double digits from him. So I think it's obviously one of the big three: Palmer, Saka, Salah. I think it also depends on a little bit of the polls as to who people are picking, and I might just go with the majority pick, but. At the current state of things, I'm on Salah, but I probably would be quite tempted with a Saka captaincy a bit closer to the deadline.
Okay. We've got, from my end, I've made 2 transfers. I've made 2 transfers already. I'm a neg 4. So my 2 transfers were Rashford out. I could have just saved Rashford and got Ahmad in this week instead of Rashford. And I could have saved myself and got Iwobi in, but he's playing Liverpool, but I could have just got Iwobi in. Oh, man. Look, this isn't my best work, but I wanted to get Isak in. Because Isak was going up in price. So I'm like, I want to catch that price rise.
Yeah.
So I've got Raya in goal, Timber, Vardiol, Ait-Nouri. I don't think Vardy will get a clean sheet, but he could score. And Ait-Nouri against Ipswich, he could assist. So I've got an attacking defenders there. Palmer, Saka, Ahmad, Salah. I'm playing Ahmad over Rodgers because I like the prospects of a Manchester derby, and there's going to be goals involved. And Ahmad's been pretty consistent.
Yeah.
And Jackson, Cunha, Isak up front. I sold João Pedro for Isak. I could have gone Cunha instead, but I like Cunha's. He's still got 3-4 fixtures. Yeah. 2 great fixtures, and there's 2 fixtures where he could still score in. Yeah. But Cunha will become Chris Wood at some point. And my captaincy armband is on Palmer at the moment. It's tossing up between Palmer and Jackson, but it's probably going to stay on Palmer at the moment. Look, I do like Salah. I do like Saka. It's just Palmer versus Brentford at home. Look, maybe it is like a nil-nil, and no one expects it. But at least on paper, the opportunity for that to be a high-scoring game is quite decent. So I'm going to captain Palmer.
Yeah, and I think given recent form, I think the chances of Chelsea scoring high are probably better than everywhere else. So if you're going for the goals and potentially penalties, I think Palmer's the go. It's just whether you think it's going to be a normal week for Chelsea or if it's going to be back to the bit of the waves we were talking about. So yeah, it's another hard week. If you've got Haaland, I think you're stuck with Haaland. I don't think there's much else anywhere else to go with the players that you've got. But if you've got the three premiums in midfield, I think it could be a 33% split either way.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, sound like we have an exciting week to look ahead to.
Indeed.
Yeah, I think that's all from my end.
Yeah, I think I'm really talked out too. We've talked about quite a lot of stuff really in the grand scheme of things this week. I think we we've got a bit of a break. Champions League football midweek. We've got a good week between, so we can see some stuff come in before we kind of hit back into the midweek games. So good week to have a break, take stock, have a look at your team, sort some stuff out, get ready to go again for these mad festive fixtures. Don't go too mad though, Andy. I don't want you getting too far away too early.
Mate, I think I want to try and bank 4 free transfers by like mid-January. I don't know if it's possible. I'm going to try my best not to transfer. I really would like to bank 4 free transfers.
Just remember, the only person who tried to bank transfers so far this year was me at the start of the year when I held on to Bruno Fernandes for 4 weeks and numerous others who didn't help my rank. So banking transfers is not the be all and end all, as we know, but I think it's a good plan, especially if you've got something in mind, which you obviously do. Um, and you can't, like we said, if your hits aren't returning, you probably need to stem them just a little bit. And I think we both were a bit guilty of hitting some people out this week and then not really actually getting the benefit. I know I had to go -8, and I was 8 points off my safety score. Yeah, we are big weeks to come. Big week this week. Interesting games. Good stuff to watch for the weekend. So I think we'll talk next week when we know a bit more and we're either level or you're running off.
Peace, better luck.
You too, buddy. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah.
See you next week.